So there are many names for the race of Laguna Seca in IMSA. Officially, we could say it's the TireRack.com Monterey SportsCar Championship at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. But what we're going to do is briefly talk about the 2-hour 40-minute race and some of the things that stood out from it. Firstly, tyre pressures. We saw lots of cars being caught out for the tyre pressures running too low. This is because of what happened at Daytona a couple of years ago, in which a couple of teams, I think it was namely the Acuras, were found to have run their tyres below the minimum pressure required to meet the rules, and found to have found ways to have circumvented the rules as well. They ended up being able to keep the win of the Rolex 24 Hours, but they didn't keep the points, and the points got redistributed instead. But yeah, is this a big issue? From a safety point, yes. Yeah, if you run the tyres too low, the tyres aren't built to run at that pressure. It's like if you overinflate a tyre, except, I guess, less likely to just blow up. But there's a reason why operating windows are recommended by the manufacturers. That is what they have rated them for, and what they have certified is safe. So yeah, I understand why it was. It was just annoying to see so many cars falling foul of it. It might not have necessarily been their fault, but it is what it is. Another thing that stood out is that Porsche still very much unbeatable, aren't they? I mean, they won GTP with a 1-2 again. They won GTD Pro again. They didn't win GTD, but they did win the other two classes. Granted, the top GTD, the Wright Motorsports, was 6th in its class. But it wasn't plain sailing this time. In fact, whilst Tandy has been the headline driver for a lot of the season so far, I think this is something that I said after Long Beach. Nasser is the informed driver in that 7 at the moment. We saw that when he was able to get past Matt Campbell on the start. However, Matthew Jaminet was arguably the greatest Porsche driver on the day. Had a monster run, managed to make the most of the pit strategy to get ahead of Nick Tandy and stay there. In the end, the win was by 1.7 seconds. Don't look at the gap to Dries Van Thor in third, because Van Thor and Philip Eng were also really competitive over the course of the event. In fact, Van Thor ended up getting another pole position for BMW. I think that's the BMW's on pole every race still so far this season, if not the 24 on pole every race this season. It is also, and they're pointing this out on the broadcast, now nearly 2 years since a GTP pole sitter has gone on to win in an IMSA race. I think they said the last time was at Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But yeah, it is so surprising to see this. Which then brings the question that I think it was John Hindar actually was talking about on the broadcast. What's going on with the BOP? Because we see the Ferraris always at the front in WEC. The Porsche is much more in the pack and much more further back. But in IMSA, it just seems like the dominant car. Now, I would argue one of the reasons why it does so well in IMSA is actually the drivers. Because it's not to say the drivers of the other cars are doing particularly bad things. I mean, look at somebody like Renger van der Zande, for example, in the Acura. There are other drivers that are very competitive as well, like the Taylors over at Wayne Taylor Racing. But at the same time, Ferrari are much more dominant in WEC, and one of the things that was pointed out in the broadcast was that the way that the ACO have been calculating BOP is somewhat different to IMSA. Personally, I think, why not look at what other tin top series like the BTCC do, or even Super GT. Super GT still uses weight ballast. I think success penalties, if you want to try to even out the field, are a good way of adding that in for the fans. Drivers aren't always fans of it, but drivers aren't going to be a fan of anything that disadvantages their car, are they? Anyways, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings, those are my reflections. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Until next time, it's bye-bye for now.